the true story of Roddy Piper's flight to Hollywood. You think you know why Roddy Piper left the World Wrestling Federation in the late 1980s. The history books and the internet rumors will tell you he retired to become a movie star. Hollywood came calling, and he left the ring to film the cult classic They Live. It's a nice story, a clean story, but it's wrong. Roddy Piper didn't just leave for Hollywood. He was running from the law. Specifically, he was avoiding a bench warrant issued in Fresno, California. We're talking about a night that started with a few drinks and ended with a car smashed by a train, a naked cowboy, Bob Orton, in a hotel hallway, and a WWF superstar getting shot with a taser. This wasn't a wrestling angle. This wasn't a script. This is what happens when the greatest villain in history forgets where the character ends and the real world begins. Today on the Wrestleverse, we are opening the police file on the scandal that Vince McMahon attempted to cover up. This is the anatomy of the Fresno Incident. Part 1. The Powder Keg. To understand why Roddy Piper ended up in a Fresno holding cell, we have to look at the world he was living in. The mid-1980s weren't just a boom period for wrestling. They represented a tectonic shift. The WWF was executing an aggressive national expansion. They were dismantling the old territory system and building a celebrity-driven juggernaut. But inside that machine, there was one golden rule that was more important than the law: kayfabe. Central to the industry's mystique was the strict adherence to kayfabe, maintaining your fictional persona in public at all times. It didn't matter if you were at the grocery store, the bar, or a gas station. If you were a bad guy on TV, you were a bad guy in life. This created a volatile environment. You had larger-than-life characters, totally unaccustomed to civilian rules, existing in a perpetual state of performance. This road culture was a bubble, often fueled by substances and a massive sense of entitlement. They were traveling performers who thought the rules didn't apply to them, and usually they were right. Until the night of February 13, 1986. The incident is known in wrestling lore as the Goonies Incident, but investigative archives have a much starker headline for it: Roddy Piper should stay out of Fresno. Part 2. The Villains. At the center of this storm were three of the WWF's top antagonists: Don Magnificent Morocco, Cowboy Bob Orton Jr., and the ringleader Roddy Piper. Let's look at the crew. First, you had Bob Orton. By 1986, he was a seasoned veteran. He was a ring general, tough, credible, and fundamentally sound. Orton knew how to make people hate him. In 1983, he famously portrayed a hero and best friend to Ric Flair, only to stab him in the back for a bounty. That betrayal cemented him as a cold-hearted villain. He wasn't flashy, he was dangerous. And then you had the hot rod, Roddy Piper. By 86, Piper was a household name. He was the consummate heel. He didn't just play the role, he lived the gimmick. His genius for antagonism was legendary. There's a famous story from the Los Angeles territory where Piper teased a crowd into standing for the Mexican national anthem, only to play a mocking rendition of La Cucaracha on his bagpipes. He nearly started a riot. That was Roddy Piper. He could make a crowd erupt with a single sentence. But here is the problem. When you spend every waking moment convincing the world you're a violent, rule-breaking maniac, sometimes you forget how to stop. These carefully crafted personas were about to collide with a local police force that didn't care about TV rating. Part 3. The Chronology of Chaos. It's the early hours of February 13, 1986. The matches at the Selland Arena are finished. The adrenaline is high. The reports from that night read like a movie script written by a madman. It starts with boisterous misbehavior. We have reports of a patron at a local bar getting beaten up. But that was just the appetizer. In Fresno's Chinatown district, things went from rowdy to catastrophic. A vehicle stalled on the train tracks. You heard me right. A train spectacularly smashed into a car. And somehow, the night was just getting started. The chaos moved to a downtown hotel, and this is where the legend of the Goonies incident truly begins. Police receive a call. Among them is a young officer named Jerry Dyer, who, ironically, would later become the mayor. They arrive at the hotel expecting a noise complaint. Instead, they find cowboy Bob Orton Jr., and he is not wearing his wrestling gear. In fact, he's not wearing anything at all. Part 4, The Naked Cowboy and the Taser. The officers arrive at the hotel. Now remember, this is 1986. Wrestling is huge, but to a beat cop in Fresno dealing with a drunk disturbance at 2 a.m., these aren't superstars. They're just big, loud problem makers. They find Bob Orton. He's undeniably intoxicated and, as we mentioned, completely naked. The police attempt to detain him. In a normal situation, the suspect complies, but a wrestler's instinct is to fight back. Orton resists. It turns into a brawl, and suddenly, out of the hotel room comes the reinforcement. Roddy Piper and Don Morocco enter the hallway. This is the critical moment. In the ring, when your friend is in trouble, you do a run-in. You storm the ring, you clear house, and the crowd goes wild. Piper sees Orton fighting the cops, and the rowdy persona takes over. He jumps in, but the Fresno Police Department isn't the WWF roster. They don't take bumps, they use force. According to the reports, Piper gets involved physically. The situation escalates instantly. An officer draws his taser. Zap. Roddy Piper, the toughest man in wrestling, takes 50,000 volts to the gut. Now legends vary here. Some say he ripped the darts out. Some say he kept coming. But the police report is clear on one thing. It took a taser to bring the hot rod down. Think about the psychology here. Piper spent years convincing us he was invincible. In this hallway, for a split second, he probably believed it too, until reality hit him, literally, with a shock to the system. Part 5. The reality check. The brawl ends. The wrestlers are in handcuffs, but the night isn't over. Because of the taser shot and the physical altercation, they are taken to the Valley Medical Center before they can be booked. Imagine the scene in that emergency room. You have a naked cowboy, a tasered bagpiper, and a frantic, magnificent Morocco. The nurses probably thought the circus had crashed on the highway. This is where the kayfabe dies. As they sit in that hospital, and later in the Fresno County Jail, the gravity of the situation starts to sink in. This isn't a storyline. There is no referee to ring the bell. They were facing real felony charges: assault on a police officer, resisting arrest. In 1986, the WWF was trying to become a family-friendly brand, marketed to kids, with cartoons and toys. Vince McMahon woke up that morning to find out his top villains were sitting in a real-life dungeon. The repercussions were immediate. The WWF legal machine had to spin into overdrive. If Piper goes to prison, the main event of WrestleMania 2 is in jeopardy. If Orton goes to jail, the top heel faction crumbles. Part 6. The flight. They managed to get bailed out, but the charges were hanging over their heads like a guillotine. And this brings us back to the myth we started with. Roddy Piper's transition to Hollywood wasn't just about ambition, it was strategic. The heat on him was nuclear. The Fresno Incident made him a liability on the road in the short term, and potentially a felon in the long term. Taking a break from wrestling to film movies wasn't just a career move. It was a way to let the heat die down. It was a way to distance the character from the criminal. But here is the kicker. They couldn't run forever. Eventually, the case went to court. Piper and Orton pleaded no contender, no contest, to disturbing the peace. The felony assault charges, dropped in a plea deal, They got probation and fines. They walked away. But the damage to the lifestyle was done. The invincible aura was cracked. They realized that the badge always goes over. Part 7. The Heel. Psychology. Before we get to the legacy of this madness, I want to take a second. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the Golden Age, if you miss the days when wrestling felt dangerous and unscripted, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button. We are building a community here at the Wrestleverse for fans who remember the glory days. If that's you, welcome home. Now, we have to ask the big question. Why? Why did seasoned professionals fight the police? Why not just show ID and go to bed? The answer lies in the psychology of the heel. In the ring, a heel is defined by one thing: insecurity. They take shortcuts. They cheat because they are afraid they aren't good enough to win fair. They operate on frustration and defiance. Piper and Orton had spent years conditioning their brains to react to authority with aggression. When a referee tells them to stop, they hit harder. When a fan yells, they yell back. So, when a police officer in Fresno said, "You're under arrest," the muscle memory took over. Add to that the road culture, isolation, painkillers, alcohol, and the god complex of being a WWF superstar in 1986. They weren't just men in a hotel hallway. They were gods who had descended from Olympus, offended that mortals were trying to tell them what to do. Part 8. The End of the Outlaws. The Fresno scandal was more than just an arrest record. It was a warning shot. It signaled the beginning of the end for the Wild West era of wrestling. Vince McMahon realized he was sitting on a powder keg. You can't have a billion-dollar company if your main eventers are in prison. The corporate machine started to tighten the screws. The boys had to grow up. Roddy Piper went to Hollywood not just to escape the heat, but because he had outgrown the cage. He proved that a wrestler could be a pop culture icon, but he never lost that edge. Even in movies, you could see it in his eyes. The danger was always there. Part 9. The Last of a Dying Breed. We look back at the Fresno Incident now and shake our heads. It was reckless. It was dangerous. It was a mess. But it was also real. In an era where everything is scripted, managed, and PR-friendly, the story of Roddy Piper in Fresno stands as a monument to a different time. A time when the lines were blurred. A time when the bad guys were actually bad. Roddy Piper wasn't just playing a character. He was the hot rod. He lived it. He breathed it. And on one crazy night in 1986, he almost went to prison for it. I want to hear from you. Do you think the business was better when the wrestlers lived their gimmicks? Or is it better now that it's safer? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one. He was the last true outlaw, and we will never see another one like him. If you enjoyed this trip back to the Golden Age, please like this video and subscribe to the Wrestleverse. We have so many more files to open, and trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. This has been the Wrestleverse, keeping the kayfabe alive. Until next time, stay rowdy.